project panner and having a very big makeup collection can sometimes cause a few issues, and one of those issues is neglected eyeshadow palettes. Now, today I want to talk about the eyeshadow palettes that I have not used at all so far this year. This is actually making me really, really sad. I did do a video recently saying that I was thinking about just pulling back on project pans a little bit, and this video is just going to solidify why. I feel like I hyper focus on 2 or 3 eyeshadow palettes in my collection for the whole year, and then these palettes have not been used once. Now, there are some palettes in this pile that I love. I really want to get use out of them. I mean, I want to get use out of every eyeshadow palette in my makeup collection, but sometimes it's just really, really difficult. But just before we do jump into the video, if you have not already, like and subscribe. I'm trying to hit 5K by the end of the year. I love bright, fun, colorful makeup looks, just like this one today. I've got a cut crease, I've got some gems, I've got some glitter. It's all fun and games here. I upload every single day on my YouTube channel, so you will never get bored. I just love talking about all things makeup. So if that interests you as well, then definitely join our little family here. I have so much more fun content coming your way, so you may as well. So these palettes are going to be in no particular order. I'm just going to grab and talk about them. As I said, all of them have been used 0 times, which makes me want to cry. All that wasted money. Makeup doesn't last forever. It does expire. So using things 0 times in 6 months, not good. And I also like doing this little 6-month update just to kind of check myself a little bit. What am I using? What am I not using? Yesterday's video would have been my most used eyeshadow palettes of the year. So once you finish this video, definitely go and check that one out. But without further ado, let's talk about the palettes. So the first palette is my Natasha Denona Mini Star palette. Some of you will not be surprised at all. This is what mine looks like. Mine looks slightly different to the original. I have replaced the N2 shades. This shade is actually a Revolution Gold shade, because this was in my makeup bag and my toner spilled all over this original shade. It just did not work anymore, so I had to scrape it out and replace it. And then this shade here is actually a single from the Pastel Roses. It's the shade Beetle, because I hated this original shade so much. I have spoken about this palette in other videos as well, but basically I bought this palette out in Seville. I love Seville. I want to have a holiday home in Seville. It is my absolute favorite city in the whole world. I bought this out in Seville. It was my first Natasha Denona palette, so it does hold some good memories. But I was rudely awakened with this palette. I didn't like the quality of it. I'd had all the Natasha Denona stans in my comments for years saying it's the best brand ever. I watch Morgan Turner all the time and she's like, oh my god, Natasha Denona is the best brand ever. I just don't like her quality, and that's fine, that's fine. We've been through this. I do like this palette more now that I've replaced those 2 shades, especially this blue, because that was my main issue with this palette. The original blue in this palette was like this murky brown shade, and it barely had any blue reflect, and that is the main reason that I bought this palette. I love blue eyeshadow, so the blue, like that vibrant pop of blue, was right up my street, and it just wasn't here originally. But now that this has been replaced, like this is the shade Beetle, I want to say, from the Pastel Roses, and you can see it's got that brown base, but it is so blue. Like, look at that. That is just this original shade amped up to the max. So hopefully I do want to use this more. I think a massive thing is if I didn't project pan, these would be used a lot more. But again, I project pan so much, it's really difficult to get use out of products. I was thinking of having this as a pan matte palette, to be honest. Now that I've replaced those shades, I think I could get really good use on it. So maybe one year this will be a little pan matte palette. I think that'd be a really, really good idea. It's a very neutral palette, so I think that'd be really, really fun. But for right now, it's just not being used. I think because it's so small as well, it's kind of hidden in my drawers. So yeah, I'm working so hard on other eyeshadows that this has been pushed to the side a little bit. I would love to give it more of a go, more of a chance, because I've not liked it for so long. I've not used it in so long. Maybe, I don't know, just for an everyday eye look, this could be really nice, but for right now, it's had no use. The next palette that I want to talk about is my Colourpop Orange You Glad palette. Now, I did do a series recently here on my channel, and it was basically speed reviewing all of my eyeshadow palettes in my collection. And for this palette, I said, if I'm gonna do an eyeshadow look, it's either really neutral or really colourful, and there's no real in between. Sometimes I'll do like neutral and blue. That's like an exception to the rule. I feel like orange is like a colourful neutral, and I don't really wear colourful neutrals much. It's either bright blue, bright green, bright pink, I mean this, or neutral. And I'm not a warm tone lover either. I would love my taupes, I love my cool tones, I love my blues, things like that. So this has definitely been neglected for a reason. I know exactly why this has been neglected. And if I wasn't a project panner, would this have been used in my collection? I don't know. I don't know if it would have been. It's one of them. It would be really interesting to see when I do pull back from project pans a little bit, not completely, just a little bit. Will this be used naturally? It's going to be interesting to see. I don't know. I do get scared with oranges a little bit. Like this shade, Mimosa Mammy, looks so vibrant and fun, but there's just something in me that gets a little bit scared, and I don't know what it is. I don't know. I feel like green and orange are my least used colors, even though I am wearing a little bit of green today. I just feel like I don't gravitate towards orange so much. And I don't know, I think, yeah, taupes are my baby. Taupes and cool tones are my little literal children. So pulling like an orange, I feel like a traitor. I feel like a traitor to my colourful self. It's something that I'm definitely wanting to dabble in. Maybe this will be a project level up palettes or something like that. I think that would be really, really fun. But for now, it has been neglected, and even looking at this palette, I think it is really, really fun. Like, I could still get a very neutral look with You Peel Me here, out on the outer corner, and then maybe Creamsicle blended out. This isn't like an orange, it's like a muted, neutrally orange. So I still think that I could get some really beautiful looks with this, but I don't know, for now, it has just been sat in my drawers, and unfortunately, it's not been used. I think that a massive reason why it might have been neglected is because I'm working on finishing a shade called Realgar in my Modern Renaissance palette right now, and that is an orange. It's a mid-tone, like orange, bright matte. So, I mean, maybe this could be a companion palette. That would be really, really fun when I start to work on Realgar. I think this in conjunction with Realgar would be beautiful. So hopefully I can finish Bon Fresco because that's my focus shade and then move on to Realgar. I think that's going to be a really, really fun idea. Hopefully very, very soon that can be a reality because I don't want any neglected eyeshadow palettes. All right, moving on to the next palette that has been used 0 times. 0 times. And this makes me sad because I love The Lion King. The Lion King is my favorite film of all time. And this is the Revolution Lion King Circle of Life eyeshadow palette. And this color story is really fun. I do love this color story. The quality could be better. The quality could be better. I don't keep this palette in my collection because I love the palette. I think if this palette had any other packaging, it would have been decluttered, but I just can't get rid of something that's The Lion King. I just love The Lion King so much. I want to collect anything that's The Lion King. I want anything to do with lions, to do with like Africa, Kenya, like all of it. I just love it so much. So yeah, this is difficult. I do love the color story in theory. Like these like neutrals and blues, like love, right up my street. However, yeah, the quality, it's a little bit hit and miss. It's a little bit difficult to work with. It's Revolution. Revolution eyeshadows at their most kind of baseline level. This is what this palette is. A lot of the shimmers are very, very thick kind of shimmers, and they don't leave super sparkly, shimmery shades all over the eyes. It's very satin. I don't know. I do love it though. I do love it. I have this little thing in my heart about this palette. I just can't get rid of it. And I would like to use this a lot more. I'd like to play around with this a lot more because it does hold a very special place in my heart. I remember first getting it, I remember first reviewing it, and it's really beautiful. So hopefully I can get some use on that soon, because that's a sad one. That makes me quite sad. So the fourth palette, I have 5 palettes here, and this I kind of understand, question mark. This is the P.Louise Winter Wonderland eyeshadow palette, and this is what it looks like inside. It is pretty. It is so pretty. It's beautiful. It's very bulky though, and I feel like with this palette, there does not need to be 3 very similar blending shades. There does not need to be. I can very, very easily just use the darker shade and the lighter shade and just get rid of the middle shade altogether. This could have been a £6 palette easily. I feel like P.Louise especially forgets that eyeshadows are meant to blend. You don't need like 3 shades that are like one dark point away from each other, you know what I mean? Eyeshadows are meant to blend. You don't need every single shade, every single saturation, every single deepness. And I feel like that puts me off this palette a little bit. I do love the colors. Like these blues, they're not just blue. They're like a denim-y, dusty blue. And I don't have anything like that in my collection. These purples are like that cool toned, like periwinkly kind of purple shade. I love that as well. Very, very unique color stories. This is the most beautiful blue to purple duochrome. It pulls both the color stories in beautifully. Like in theory, this is a really beautiful palette, but I'm just not reaching for it for some reason. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. This I would like to use more. I'd like to use all of these more. I'm going to say that so many times. I'd like to use all of these palettes so much more. But for some reason, I'm just not reaching for it. And I think I forget about this palette a lot, to be honest. Like, this palette is one of those palettes that I do just forget about. So maybe I do need to use it a lot more. This shade does have pan in it from, like, a year ago when I had it in a Project Level Up. I think this was my first ever Project Level Up palette, actually, which is very, you know, throwback. But I do like this palette, but it's just not in the top tiers, you know? And I think that's probably why it's a little bit neglected. Okay, and finally, this is like the most painful one for me, I think. This is the one that hurts my soul the most. The fact that this has not been used all year makes me so sad. This is the Beauty Bay Wilderness palette. Stop. Oh, I love it so much. This is so beautiful. It's kind of matching my vibe a little bit today. This palette, I do love it. I do love it. I love it so much. I remember lusting after the Melt Muerte palette, and then this came out and I was like, baby, I got my fill. Don't you panic. Beauty Bay formula is like ridiculously amazing. I love it so much, and this palette's quality is just stunning. Again, I think that if I didn't do so many project pans, this would be such a loved palette. I'd just reach for it all the time. I think another massive reason that maybe it is neglected is because it is discontinued now. That's something that I really hate about Beauty Bay sometimes. They discontinue their palettes so often. The Book of Magic and this palette are like my favorite palettes, but I feel bad using it because you can't buy this palette anymore. Maybe I'll do like a duping my favorite discontinued palette series, something like that, pulling out some eyeshadows that I think would be like really good dupes for this. I think that's a really good idea, actually. Let me know if you want to see something like that. But this palette makes me so happy. It really does. Apart from these reds. These reds are pretty duddy. Like, I don't like these reds. They're very, very dry. This shimmer has pretty much no payoff at all. It's a very, very toned down satin shade. The other shimmers in this palette are like wham pam in your face pigmented. And then this one just like didn't get the memo or something. This one wanted to be in like a very subtle Charlotte Tilbury palette. And then the other shades are like, we are indie. But even the color story of this, I love, 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 love blue. You know, blue is my happy color. And we've got a whole row of beautiful blues. Teals have my heart and soul. Greens and reds aren't really my thing, despite what I'm wearing today. But I feel like when I pull this palette, I kind of have the urge, like blues and reds, stop. stop. I need to do a blue and red look with this palette. See, I'm getting inspired. Just pulling out these palettes and talking about these palettes, I'm getting so inspired. So, oh, like a blue, hear me out, hear me out, hear me out. Blue all around the eye with like a red inner corner blended up into the crease with like a smoky shadow on the lid. Beautiful. Beautiful. I'm gonna do that. But this is what I miss about just having free reign over my eyeshadow palettes. Like I want to do looks. I want to do looks with these, but I barely ever open my eyeshadow drawer because all of the eyeshadows that I'm panning are in my acrylic organizer on my desk. So it's like I never even open the drawer. I never see what I have, and it makes me so sad. So do you have any of these eyeshadow palettes in your collection? Are they just as neglected as mine, or are they well loved? I really hope they're well loved in your collections, because all of these palettes are nice palettes, but for me, they're just not being used. I'm actually really excited to do this little series next year when I do pull back on project pans, because that'll be a more accurate representation of what I'm using and what I'm loving in comparison to just like what I'm project panning, you know? I think that would be such a fun series, and I'm so excited to start that. And yeah, I hope you're excited to continue my little project panning journeys, my little eyeshadow journeys, my bright, fun, crazy eye looks. But with that being said, this is where I'm gonna love you and leave you today, guys. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, like and subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow for a brand new video. Bye bye.